a group of sanitation workers discovered an enormous quantity of fried meat in the trash bins of a food street. Many people initially mistook it for fried chicken or pork, but one of the workers realized it was actually human meat. A government employee, unsatisfied while his wife was pregnant, went to a nightclub to find young women to date. A young woman, deceived by her boyfriend, started working at a nightclub to make money and quickly fell into an affair with a married man. So whose fried meat was found by the sanitation workers? Why did it take police 2 years to solve this horrifying case? Join us as we explore one of the most chilling cases of the 21st century. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive notifications whenever a new video is released. This is a true story that happened in Nanjing City, Jiangsu Province, China. On a September morning in 2012, crowds bustled along the lively food street, with the aroma of delicious dishes wafting through the air. However, this vibrant scene had nothing to do with the sanitation workers busy cleaning up kitchen waste as part of their routine duties. While the workers were occupied, one of them noticed something unusual. There were a lot of fried meat pieces thrown in the trash, many of them covered in ketchup, resembling McDonald's chicken nuggets. The sanitation workers didn't think much of it, assuming it was just a bit of food waste. However, one of them found the amount of fried meat suspiciously excessive, which seemed unreasonable. Since there were only a few fried chicken stalls in the food street, even leftover waste couldn't possibly amount to dozens of bags like this. While the sanitation workers were chatting animatedly about the discovery, their colleague, Mr. Li, also came over to inspect the situation. Coincidentally, Mr. Li was a retired soldier who had participated in several military operations. After retiring, Mr. Li returned to his hometown to live with his wife and children. When his son moved to Nanjing for work, he and his wife decided to relocate there as well. He took a job as a sanitation worker in the food street to earn extra money to support his family. As Mr. Li looked at the fried meat spilling out of the trash bin, he had an ominous feeling and broke off a piece of the meat to examine it more closely. Having seen many comrades fall in battle, Mr. Li immediately recognized that the pieces of meat they had found weren't chicken, but resembled human flesh. Upon hearing this, the group of workers panicked, dropped the fried meat they were holding, and called the police immediately. After receiving the report, the Nanjing police promptly arrived at the scene. Several forensic experts brought tools to examine the situation. After a thorough investigation, the forensic experts confirmed that the fried meat covered in ketchup was indeed human flesh. The entire food street was immediately cordoned off, and the police began carefully searching every corner. Within moments, the bustling food street became eerily deserted, with only police officers inspecting trash bins and sewers. After a full day of searching, the police found several more bags of fried meat in the trash bins. Once the forensic team pieced the meat fragments together, they concluded that the remains could belong to the torso and limbs of a woman around 20 years old who had not given birth. However, the head was never found, and since the meat had been fried, identifying the victim became extremely difficult. After a meticulous search, they finally discovered fingerprints on one of the plastic bags containing the fried meat. The police were excited about this breakthrough, as the fingerprints could be the key to solving the case. But upon checking the fingerprints, they found that the suspect had no prior criminal record, leaving them unable to identify anyone suspicious. Nonetheless, this small detail could potentially become decisive evidence for convicting the perpetrator in the future. Although they had clues suggesting the victim was a young woman around 20 years old, the police struggled to determine her identity due to the lack of information. Even after reviewing security camera footage from restaurants along the street, they couldn't find any suspicious activity. At this point, the forensic team provided another critical piece of information. The meat had been frozen and then thawed before being fried. From this detail, the police deduced that the killer must have used a large refrigerator or even a freezer to store the meat. To catch the murderer, the police decided to investigate large refrigerators and freezers in the area for leads. However, sales of household appliances around Nanjing exceeded thousands, even tens of thousands, of refrigerators and freezers each month. Many of these purchases couldn't be traced, making the police's task extremely challenging. They also searched for information on missing persons in Nanjing, but found no matches. For 2 years, the police were unable to identify the victim, making it even harder to track down the killer. In 2014, a Nanjing police officer on duty in Yancheng City, Jiangsu Province, happened to come across a missing person report for a young woman. The matching details indicated that the woman, reported missing by her family, was 20 years old, unmarried, had no children, and had disappeared in Nanjing 2 years earlier. Suspecting that she might be the victim in the unresolved Nanjing case, the police immediately requested DNA samples from her family for testing. The DNA of the missing woman's relatives quickly matched that of the victim in Nanjing. The missing woman was identified as He Qingqing. Before her disappearance, she had been working at a bar in Nanjing. Due to a strained relationship with her family, He Qingqing rarely kept in touch with her relatives. It wasn't until 2014 that her parents, during a work trip to Nanjing, decided to visit their daughter. However, when they arrived at the address where she had rented a house, they found the place covered in dust, as if it hadn't been lived in for some time. A calendar on the wall still showed the date from 2 years earlier, and a pile of cluttered belongings sat in one corner. Inside the house, her bank card, ID card, and mobile phone were missing. However, everyday items such as clothes, cosmetics, and household appliances remained, suggesting that He Qingqing had not moved out. After asking around, her parents eventually located the landlord, who was equally surprised at the state of the house. The landlord revealed that He Qingqing had been paying her rent regularly for the past 2 years, making payments once a year. Since the landlord lived far away and He Qingqing always paid on time, they never visited the property to check on her. After contacting some of their daughter's friends, who also didn't know her whereabouts, the parents became even more worried. Fearing that something bad had happened to their daughter, they grew increasingly uneasy and immediately reported her disappearance to the Yancheng police. Once He Qingqing's identity was confirmed as the victim, Nanjing police began investigating her relationships. Through her family, they discovered that He Qingqing's life had not been going well. While living in Yancheng, He Qingqing was heartbroken and unemployed after breaking up with her boyfriend. The mental strain, coupled with financial difficulties, led to constant arguments and conflicts with her parents. During her time online, she met a man who ran a food service business in Nanjing. This man showed great interest in He Qingqing and even helped her resolve some financial issues. To be with her new lover, she was willing to move to Nanjing to live and work, despite her family's objections. Not wanting to hear her family's nagging, she changed her mobile phone number and stopped contacting her parents back home. What she didn't know was that the man was actually a notorious playboy. After enjoying their relationship for a while, he abandoned He Qingqing in pursuit of a new lover. Left without support and money, the young woman decided to work at a nightclub. With her youthful beauty, she was quickly hired. Through some of the victim's friends, the police tracked down the ex-boyfriend who had abandoned her when she moved to Nanjing. However, the man provided solid alibis for his whereabouts 2 years ago and insisted he hadn't had any contact with the victim after their breakup. Police believed that while working at the nightclub, the victim must have become acquainted with a few men. But uncovering this lead was challenging, as 2 years had passed and her former co-workers at the nightclub might have already left their jobs. After persistent searching, they managed to find a coworker who had worked with the victim, a woman named Liu Yun. Liu Yun provided a crucial lead to the police. According to her, He Qingqing had been involved with a man named Qiao. Liu Yun described Qiao as a married man who often frequented the bar for entertainment. Attracted to He Qingqing's beauty, he approached her, and she quickly fell for him. However, after some time of dating, the two frequently argued and quarreled. Liu Yun had advised He Qingqing to break up with Qiao, knowing he was married, but the young woman refused to listen. After obtaining this lead, the police immediately began tracking down the man named Qiao. Through witnesses at the nightclub, authorities identified the man as Qiao Jun, a government employee in Nanjing, admitted to having had a relationship with He Ching, but claimed they had broken up. Originally from Nanjing, Qiao came from a family of government officials. After graduating from university, he began working in a government agency. Not long after, Qiao married a beautiful and talented former classmate from university. When his wife became pregnant, and the couple could not have physical relations for a while, he couldn't endure it and used work as an excuse to visit nightclubs. One night, he met He Ching, a very young and attractive hostess at a nightclub. He quickly began dating her to satisfy his desires and even supported her by paying her rent and living expenses. At first, he enjoyed the novelty of being with a young lover, but over time, he felt increasingly controlled by her. Seeing that He Ching was highly possessive and fearing that the affair might harm his career, he decided to end the relationship. After breaking up with her, he avoided nightclubs altogether, fearing that his wife or colleagues might find out about the affair. Qiao Jun firmly denied, knowing that He Ching had died and claimed he had no involvement in the murder. However, the police suspected that the story was far more complicated and decided to investigate his whereabouts at the time of the victim's death. Qiao Jun claimed that he had been sleeping at home while his wife was visiting her parents. This answer seemed unconvincing, as he had no alibi. When the police requested his fingerprints, Qiao confidently agreed to the test without hesitation. The results revealed that his fingerprints matched those found on the plastic bag recovered at the scene 2 years earlier. Upon hearing the results and being arrested, Qiao Jun's face darkened with shock. During the interrogation, he was stunned to learn that his fingerprints had been found on the plastic bag containing the fried meat. At this point, faced with undeniable evidence, Qiao Jun could no longer deny his crimes and confess to being the murderer. According to Qiao Jun, during their relationship, He Ching was unhappy with her status as a mistress and demanded that he divorce his wife to marry her. How could a government employee like him marry a nightclub hostess? Moreover, his wife was pregnant, and both sides of their families, being retired officials, would never accept a woman with a lifestyle like hers. More importantly, he didn't have genuine feelings for the young woman. He only wanted a casual fling. Therefore, he refused her demands and suggested ending their relationship. He Ching, of course, was furious upon hearing this and demanded a breakup fee of 1 million yuan. If he didn't pay, she threatened to go to his wife and workplace to expose everything, intending to ruin his reputation. Terrified by Ching's threats, he desperately borrowed money from various sources, but managed to gather only 700,000 yuan. He then met with her and handed over the money, hoping she would leave him alone and stay out of his life. Seeing her accept the money, he felt reassured that their relationship was finally over. However, a month later, she messaged him, claiming she had sprained her ankle and had no one to take care of her. Feeling obligated, he went to her rented apartment, bringing food and medicine. This act made He Ching mistakenly believe he still cared for her, and she once again demanded that he divorce his wife. She threatened to call his wife and reveal everything if he refused. Qiao Jun, of course, declined and repeatedly rejected her. However, Ching refused to back down, even threatening to report him to his workplace. During a heated argument, Qiao Jun lost control and lunged at her, strangling her until she stopped breathing. Once he regained his composure, he realized that she had died and considered turning himself in. However, thinking about his family and career, he decided against going to prison and instead resolved to dispose of the body and erase all evidence. After completing the gruesome act, to avoid suspicion, he fried the meat and discarded it in trash bins near the food street. To make it look inconspicuous, he disguised it as fried chicken with ketchup, as though it were food waste from nearby restaurants. As for the victim's head, he calmly dealt with it by salting and drying it in her rented apartment until it was completely preserved. Over time, the head decomposed into a skull, which he hid in a safe in his office. To avoid suspicion, he continued paying the rent for the victim's apartment for 2 years. Based on the killer's confession, the police found the woman's skull in the safe in his office. When Qiao Jun's crimes were exposed, His wife and family were in utter disbelief that a man who appeared so gentle could commit such heinous acts. Ultimately, he was sentenced to death by the court in accordance with the law. The horrifying case in Nanjing left many people reflecting deeply. The killer, who had a happy family, betrayed his wife due to a fleeting sense of loneliness. In truth, Qiao Jun made a grave mistake the moment he initiated an illicit relationship, and he paid a heavy price for it. In this case, the victim also bore some responsibility for entering into a relationship with a married man. Had he Qing learned to let go, her fate might have been different. Her greed for money ultimately led her to her downfall. From the moment she chose to remain entangled with Qiao Jun, there was no chance for a good outcome for either of them. The story of the young woman who became involved with a married man, was murdered, and turned into fried meat dumped in trash bins in Nanjing concludes here. Share your thoughts, feelings, and opinions about this story in the comments section below the video. This video ends here. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us continue bringing you more meaningful content. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos.